In a small village on the outskirts of Hungary, nestled among forgotten forests, there stood an abandoned house that had been the source of fear for the locals for years. They called it the House of Night Shadows. The story went that decades ago, a family lived there, a married couple with 2 children. One winter night, without any warning, they vanished. The house was found empty, with no trace of the family left behind. People whispered that their disappearance was the work of something unnamed. Matthew, a young man from the nearby village, had always been curious. He treated the stories about the haunted house with skepticism, believing they were just rural legends. One day, after a long discussion with his friends, they decided to enter the house and find out if anything supernatural truly resided there. They planned to spend the night inside, to prove to everyone that it was just an empty ruin. When Matthew, along with his 2 friends, Michael and Carol, arrived at the house, darkness had already fallen outside. A thick fog surrounded them, and the old building seemed more desolate than ever. Despite their growing unease, they went inside, equipped with flashlights, food, and sleeping bags. The interior of the house was decayed. Dust coated the old furniture, and the faded wallpaper hung loosely from the walls. Nothing indicated that anything out of the ordinary had happened there. But as the night deepened, things began to change. The dim light of their flashlights started flickering, and the shadows in the corners of the room seemed to move. Suddenly, the creaking sound of doors opening came from downstairs. Michael, trying to joke, said it was just the wind. But when they heard footsteps on the stairs, their confidence began to fade. The footsteps grew louder and clearer, as if someone was slowly ascending the staircase. Matthew stood up, holding a broken chair leg he had found on the floor, and approached the door. There was no one on the stairs. However, when he reached the bottom floor, something caught his eye. On the fogged-up window in the living room, there were small handprints. The door to the basement, which had been locked tight before, was now wide open. Despite their fear, they decided to descend into the basement to find out what was happening. The basement was cold and damp, and the air felt unnaturally heavy. At the end of a dark corridor stood an old wooden door. When Michael opened it, they found a small, sealed room inside, filled with old children's beds and broken toys. Suddenly, something moved behind them. Matthew turned abruptly and saw something in the shadows. A figure of a small boy, standing still, staring at them with hollow, lifeless eyes. The boy opened his mouth, but instead of words, only a faint, raspy whisper came out. "They are coming back!" At that moment, panic erupted. Carol started running, trying to escape, but the door upstairs slammed shut with a deafening bang. The 3 of them were trapped. The lights began flickering, and shadows around them started moving faster and faster. Faces appeared in the darkness, distorted, filled with pain and anger. The boy vanished, and in his place, other figures emerged. Adults, silently approaching them. Matthew felt a coldness engulf his body, and his mind filled with dread. Suddenly, everything went quiet. From the shadows, a woman appeared, the mother from the legend, reaching out her hands toward them. Her face was full of despair, and in her eyes was a hunger, as if she were trying to grasp the remnants of her former life. In her hands, she held 2 small cradles, as if searching for her children. The boys fled the house in a panic, leaving behind their forgotten belongings. They never returned, and they never spoke of what they had seen. The only evidence of their visit to the House of Night Shadows was the basement door, which from that day forward always stood ajar.